Hello everyone. Welcome. It's Will from Ghosthack back to teach you guys about the pan snare. Now, if you are a fan of heavy electronic music, then you have probably already heard lore about this pan snare, but today I will show and tell you what exactly that is in case you don't know, and I will also show you how you can achieve it. Fair warning though, this is not for the faint of heart or the weak of stomach. This is dangerous stuff. This is only for the truly brutal and hardcore individuals out there that really want to express how much of... Oh, I gotta repaint my nails. Now I'm upset. So here I have taken a snare. This is actually a Code Pandorum snare that's specifically designed for like Dubstep. It just doesn't have the pan layer over it. And I wanted to show you a few different techniques of how you can add the pan to your snare, essentially. Technique number one is literally record the sound of a pan clang. Or just look one up online. It really, like, you can just do that and it'll work perfectly fine. I've actually done that before. This is some old samples that I got from like my kitchen. And there's one right here, which is like a cast iron pot or something. And I have this version of it. That's when I didn't hit record in time and it cut off the very front of the sample. But it's basically just faded in. And what I have done here is I have taken that exact sample, I've kind of staggered it a little bit. I've run it through a little bit of like compression and slight distortion just to make it a little heavier and a little like thicker and richer. And then I layer it over the snare to create a pan snare. This is literally the easiest way you could ever possibly do this. It's ridiculous. So you have the original snare. Sounds good. And then you have the pan added to the snare. And you can make this loud and more obvious. You can make it more subtle. I actually used this particular sample in a Dubstep song. Here, hold up, let me pull this up. This was back when I was on a really crappy laptop, but the song still turned out cool. You can hear that's literally this sample. I think I just pitched it up a little bit. I think it was like that. I think it just worked better with the snare. So it stands out really good in like Dubstep music. But let's say for some reason that you just didn't want to record anything. You were too lazy to do that, or just to grab anything. Just grab a sample from online. It doesn't matter. But let's say you don't want to do that and you're kind of like me and you want everything in your life to be synthesis. You can create some cool pan style layers using Serum. Let's make you a bit bigger. That's a little better. Now, it still sounds rather synthy. It's not as natural as the other one, but I think it layers pretty good with this snare as well. That's what it sounds like. And then together, you have complete control over the sound, which you don't really get from an actual recording of a pot. If you want this exact preset, then you can download the preset. There's going to be a link in the description, but I'm just going to go through and show you how I made this thing. So like you can make your own if you want to. Also, comment telling me which one you think is better, because I like them both. I mean, I guess I kind of side toward the natural pan hit just because it's easier. But like I said, I like synthesizing stuff too. So maybe I like Serum better. I don't know. Leave a comment. Let me know which one you prefer.
It helps the algorithm. We'd really appreciate it.
Basically, it kind of starts its life sounding like this. Not really much. You have some reverb and stuff here because I've added limiter, a wave shaper, a little bit of EQ and stuff like that on this kind of master chain, as well as like some reverb here. So I can turn that off. But it starts just as a little saw wave. And the main thing we're trying to do here is we're trying to create something that sounds metallic and kind of atonal. It doesn't sound very synthetic. And whereas this thing does sound synthetic compared to the pan, I think I still did a pretty good job of this. So first thing I did was I dealt with this envelope. I made kind of a natural shape that faded in a little bit here and then faded out. So it's actually a very similar shape to this piece of audio that we worked with a second ago. It just fades in and then fades out. Keep in mind, it does not have to be clicky or punchy. The impact is going to entirely come from the snare. I also have LFO one that's going to control just a bunch of other things that are just kind of moving around about the sound to keep it sounding natural. I have it just moving the wavetable position a little bit, just to add and give it some life. And then also it's moving the FM. You can see the FM is sitting right here, right around the middle, moving around to this LFO, which I have on envelope mode, by the way. I could have just used envelope too. I don't know why I didn't do that. What I did was I put on a sine wave, like I put on a sine wave in this basic shapes tab. And then I used this sync feature, sync window, to kind of like double the length and warp it in an interesting kind of organic way. And we're FMing from B. So we now get that. It's kind of a metallic, it's almost a riddim-y sort of sound. But I also want to stress some things right here. You can do this sort of FM and sync all day to try to get some weird sort of high harmonics. But the thing that helps the most is definitely messing around with these pitches. Look, this one is up 2 semitones. The fine tune is up 6. This fine tune is up 58. Weird numbers that don't make sense. They don't harmonically go together. This isn't like a 7th or a 5th or something. None of that. These are literally just atonal harmonics that are designed to clash together. This whole thing is designed to just not really fit together harmonically very well because I wanted it to sound kind of organic and natural as opposed to perfect and synthesized. And I'm going to be adding a lot of things to this to make it sound more organic, like ring modulation. I have A here going through the ring modulation, and oscillator A is going through this ring modulation. Now this is what the ring modulation sounds like all the way up. But what I'm doing is I'm kind of also using this LFO1 to slide the mix upward so I can unbypass it. And it starts out with like no ring modulation, then slides into the ring modulation. That's not a particularly necessary thing to do. All I'm trying to do here is just add some movement and just some organic kind of warping of the frequencies. That's it. This is not specific values where it's like, this is exactly where it has to sound. This is just generally what I'm doing. Because again, if you want this exact sound, just download the preset. I'm just telling you my thought process here. Next up, filter. This is a Combs filter. This thing is just gonna mess it up. Listen to that. It's kind of like fuzzy now. The harmonics are all scrambled and noisy. Ooh, that's not actually a very good green screen. I should probably fix that. Anyway, I just set the cutoff low, a little bit of resonance. Makes it sound kind of scrapey. So that's fun. And then I added an EQ to take out the low end and also boost a particular harmonic that I liked. There's sort of an ah kind of harmonic right in the middle that I liked, so I wanted to accent that with the EQ. Running it through a little bit of distortion, you can see I have drive here. The drive up very high, it's tube distortion. I'm also using this EQ to kind of round off the high end in post. That's just the taste. I just wanted a little bit of distortion here. Makes it a little harder, a little more brutal. I added the phaser trick where you turn the rate, the depth, and the frequency all the way down, and it makes it kind of sound like it's coming through a guitar amp or something. Like, it's subtle, but I actually use that on a lot of sounds. It's a fun trick. And then I added reverb, a little bit of the plate reverb, the size real low, the pre-delay real low. It's just a super tight reverb. And you can hear, that's the cool thing about the plate reverb, there's like metallic textures in there because it's not simulating like a hall, it's actually simulating like reverb going through a metal plate because that's how the old reverbs were done. That's a texture that spring reverb and plate reverb often have. These room simulators don't really have that, so that's more natural and the plate is more metallic. And now that we have that, let me turn on the other effects that we had going here. Yeah, a little bit of limiting. A little bit of wave shaping, makes it a little crunchier. You can see how I'm EQing it. And then the reverb, obviously pretty standard, and then just a limiter at the end. And I'm running the snare, the main snare, through this chain as well. When you compress these two together, it kind of pushes them together. When you distort them together, it blends them together. It kind of mixes the pot a little bit and makes it feel a little more natural. That sounds pretty good. And now if you want, you can go in and just make edits. Like I have this preset saved. That's what it sounds like. Now maybe I can change up some of these pitches. You hear how the tonality changes? Like that's actually not bad either. Oh, that's good. Actually like that a lot. Bada bing, bada boom. Pan snare. So that is how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. Which technique do you like best? And don't just be like, oh, I like the Serum technique because I have control over everything because I'm the best. And then just go and record yourself hitting your head with a pot. That's not what I want. I want honesty. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other ideas as far as tutorials, things you'd like to know or you'd like to learn how to do, leave them down below and maybe we'll make one of them or two or three or all of them. We appreciate all of you and I will see you in the next video. Happy producing.